short on everything tonight.
Basically, none of the things I had hoped for going well tonight just didn't happen. But I'm grateful that I got a chance to be out there with my brothers. Grateful that we were part of history tonight.
Good day. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. Thank you for being with us. My guys, Tim Legler, Big Perk, Kendrick Perkins. Gentlemen, how we feeling this morning?
What's going on, Molly? What's up, Leg?
Wonderful. What's up?
Good, because we got a whole lot to get into. Gentlemen, what a weekend it was in sports. Let's get right to it. And I want to start just across the bridge in BK. You know where I'm going. Kyrie Irving made his home debut Sunday night during a 119-110 loss to the Charlotte Hornets, making it clear that he believes his presence on the court represents something much bigger than basketball. New York City Mayor Eric Adams rolled back the mandate last week. For athletes and performers that are unvaccinated, they can perform in New York. Irving received a huge ovation from the sold-out crowd. Gentlemen, this was the largest in Barclays Center history, 18,000 plus, but Kyrie struggled to find a rhythm, finishing just 6 for 22 from the field in almost 41 minutes. He had 16 points and 11 assists, but was just 1 for 9 from beyond the arc. Here's Kyrie Irving and where Brooklyn currently stands.
We know where we are in the standings, and we also know how much talent we have in that locker room and what we're capable of doing. So though this may look like a loss that could have easily been a win column for us, we'll just take our bumps and bruises and move forward.
Meanwhile, gentlemen, the Suns pulled away late to beat the Sixers 114-104. Devin Booker had 35 points. Joel Embiid had 37 points, 15 rebounds, but the better team was the Suns. Phoenix extending their win streak to 8. Philly now 4th in the East. Perk, who has more at stake come playoff time? Is it Brooklyn or Philly?
Well, Molly, when you think of Brooklyn, right, you think of two people, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant.
Absolutely.
And when you think of Philly, you think of James Harden and Joel Embiid. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant both already have championships. They won their rings. So when you think about the 76ers, Joel Embiid, and especially James Harden, are trying to accomplish what Kyrie and KD already have. So I have to go with the 76ers for the simple fact that we're watching James Harden right now. And to me, I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to see a James Harden that could go out there and consistently get you 25 to 30 points a night. I think his game is slowly on the decline. I'm not counting him out just yet, but look, he left the Brooklyn Nets to go to Philly, to go team up with Joel Embiid to win a championship. So with both of those guys starving for a ring, it's the Philadelphia 76ers that have more at stake. And then again, guess what? James Harden is a free agent after this season. So if things don't work out, we have witnessed over the past 2 years that James Harden don't have a problem with leaving.
No, I hear you, Perk, but here's where I'm going to disagree with you. So when I look at Brooklyn, I say to myself, this was put together 2 years ago, and the very day that they paired up Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, this team was supposed to have getting ready for their second championship by now. It's a very good chance they get bounced in the play-in, or at best case, they lose a first-round series this year. That's going to be 2 consecutive seasons. They're not even close to that goal. When I look at Philadelphia, going into the season, this was not a championship contender with Ben Simmons. They certainly weren't without him because they didn't replace him with anything. So, okay, they go get James Harden, and I understand what you're saying. Neither one of their 2 stars have checked that box yet. So I get it. There is a sense of urgency that they want to go ahead and get that done. But at the same time, James Harden joined the team, with 2/3 of the season already gone. He is not the same player that he was in Houston. And it's obvious physically when you watch him, his inability to win that matchup in front of him and beat that first defender and put him in his rearview mirror, which is really what his entire game is predicated on. That's not quite the same. And I saw some numbers this morning that were great. His blow-by rate has dropped down to mediocre level by NBA standards, where he was in the 90th percentile of winning that matchup. So your point about what he looks like is valid. I'm just saying they haven't been together that long, and he is not the same player. So I just don't think it's quite as fair to put those level of expectations on those guys after being together such a short time. when you look at what Brooklyn did 2 years ago, and they might be 2 years in, not even coming close to that goal.
No, but Legs, see, that's to me, I think James Harden is the reason why the expectations for Philly has to be high for the Nets and they have more at stake. Because of what James Harden has done over the past 2 years, forcing his way out of Houston, going to Brooklyn, preaching about scary hours, and then all of a sudden you choose to leave Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and say, I want to go to Philly. I want to go to Philly. James Harden, the only thing he has left to accomplish is actually winning the championship. That's the only thing he actually really needs to accomplish. He has stacked up every individual accolade you possibly could imagine offensively. Offensively. Not no defensive player accolades. I'm talking about on the offensive end. But when you look at it, he is the one, right? He's almost out of his prime. He knows he needs to win a championship. And when you choose to leave Kevin Durant, who's arguably the best basketball player in the game today, and go to Philly, force your way out? Nah, I gotta say he has the most at stake along with the Philadelphia 76ers.
Look, I think there's two different points being made. I think you're dead right on the James Harden one, because I think when you look at the four players we're talking about, the four stars involved in these two teams, there is no question that James Harden still has the most to prove. Because you look at what he did in Houston, and he ran an offense that was unprecedented. In NBA history, there's never been an offense that was that ball dominant with one player. The way that he orchestrated things in Houston, year after year after year, good teams had a chance, came up short, whether it was his own play or injuries or teammates' injuries, whatever it was, they always came up short. So nobody has more pressure amongst the four than James Harden. But when you talk about the team, I got to still stick with Brooklyn, because everybody expected the day that those three guys came together. I know James Harden's not there anymore, but I'm talking about the grand plan that was hatched with that organization, bringing in Steve Nash, getting these three guys to play together. They thought they were going to be working on their second parade route. They haven't come close to that. Now, injuries have played a part, but that doesn't matter. NBA doesn't care. There's no sympathy for teams that get hurt. For me, the fact that they could be 2 years into this and they have not even reached the final, which is probably not going to happen this year with the way they play defense, to me, that's the bigger disappointment than Philadelphia potentially not getting there right now with Joel Embiid and a James Harden that is a reduced version, clearly, of what he was in Houston.
Well, Legs, let me ask you a question. If the Nets don't achieve, or just say they don't make it to the finals or the Eastern Conference Finals, or say they underachieve, and say Philly underachieve, who would get criticized the most?
I think James Harden individually, honestly, he would get more of the heat from this, even more so than the respective teams, or even in the case of Philadelphia, Doc Rivers is going to have a lot to answer for if this doesn't go right. I think Joel Embiid will probably be off the hook. I think he's going to put up great numbers whether they lose a series or not. I think Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are going to put up numbers whether they lose or not. James Harden's iffy, and James Harden was the guy that basically handpicked where he wanted to go and forced his way out. So for me, it's going to fall at his feet. But I'm looking at them, and you got to be realistic about this. When James Harden jumped on that Acela Express from Brooklyn and jumped down to Philadelphia, 30th Street Station, and I've been on that train many, many times. When he got off that train, people had great expectations. But when you really look at him physically night to night, there's so many reasons to be concerned now. And I was as hopeful as anybody. I thought maybe that was going to put him over the top. But when I watch him every night, and last night was a great example, you just look at him and you say, man, this is not the same guy physically. And if he's not, he doesn't have the ability to beat you from the perimeter. He has to beat you from the paint, at the rim, and at the line. He is really struggling to do that right now, Perk. So I'm just saying the reality of it is he's not the player that he needs to be right now to be able to make it a realistic expectation that they get through and win a championship. And that's why, for me, I've already kind of looked at them differently than I did the day that he ended up in Philadelphia.
Perk, last word here.
And guess And guess what, Legs? I don't disagree with you one bit. He doesn't look like the James Harden of old. But at the end of the day, none of us are trying to hear that. You forced your way and you left KD